Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's story time. I love people's stories. My husband thinks I'm a bit nosy. He thinks I'm a little bit, got to know everybody's business. I haven't. I just love stories. So, without further ado, can I introduce fabulous Tim Matthews? Woo! Hello. So,
I can't do the sound now because I'm over here. So if
okay.
I'm
Okay. I rarely have anybody say, Mel, I can't hear you. And I have some lovely little older patients come in that can't hear very well, and they never say, Mel, I can't hear you. Okay then, lovely Tim. Lovely Tim, what's your name?
It's not lovely Tim, that's for sure. Tim Matthews. I'm originally from London.
Yeah.
Come up to the Midlands in 1998, and I've lived here since then.
Okay.
Used to live in the flats across the road.
Okay, so not a Gornal guy.
No.
Okay.
But I did live in Gornal until
That,
5 years.
see, I think that counts. I'm told it doesn't count, but I think it counts.
It took a good 10 years to put people on the road to accept.
Gosh, yeah. What's that all about? Yeah. Okay. So, what do you do? Do you work? What do you do for your living? How do you spend your days?
Well, I work in social care. I've worked in social care since I moved up in the 90s. I moved up to work on a farm because I did farming at college. But I ended up working in a children's home, and I've worked in social care ever since. I've been all the way to the top senior management, and now I'm just sort of a flexi time, part time, but it's actually more than full time hours. But up to work on a part-time care worker. Yeah.
Is this local? Do you do this
Just
locally?
in Wollaston, up the
Okay.
road. Yeah.
And it's children?
It's a young adult, this one. I
Okay.
worked with him as a young man when he was a child,
Okay.
about 8 or 9 years ago, and he moved into adult services this time last year, and they struggled to find specialist care workers to look after him. So
Okay.
I felt sorry for them and went and had a
So it's a
chat.
one-to-one?
It's a one-to-one. Yeah, it's great. It's not a job. I go out, I have fun,
Yeah.
I take him places.
That
Doesn't
sounds
feel
really
like
good.
work.
Oh.
But real work is looking after my parents 200 miles away, which I also do
Okay.
every
Wow.
couple of weeks. That feels like work.
Yes.
But there we are.
Okay. That sounds challenging.
Interesting, yeah.
Interesting.
No, we love them to bits.
Of course.
They're lovely.
Yeah, fab. Okay, so who or what influenced your very first steps towards faith and Jesus?
Well, ever since I was born, I've grown up in a Christian family, and I was taken to what was a congregational church, fairly traditional congregational church in South London. So yeah, I've kind of grown up around the church, grown up around faith and the Bible and Bible stories and Sunday school. So I think that's probably my early steps were basically around just growing up in the family.
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, and then when did you start to think, hang on a bit, there's something in this, there's something a bit more to this than just hanging with family?
Growing up in it, you sort of accept it as real. A bit like, as a child, Father Christmas is real. But, it was a very kind of traditional church. It wasn't until, I suppose, the mid-'80s that they came out of their sort of traditional sort of repetitive, hymn, sandwich kind of service, and they started to introduce the Holy Spirit, which was new to my parents as well. That's when I started to feel a difference in church, and you could see there was something new, something real about the service. And I remember one Harvest Festival in particular feeling something inside that was new and was God, felt like God, felt like we were really praising and really worshipping. And that would have been about 1985, 1986, something like that.
Okay.
When I was...
So I was going to ask, how old would you have been?
Well, I'm 45 now,
Okay.
so I'd have been 10.
So young person,
Yeah.
realising that there's something else,
Yeah.
something a bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on a little bit from that, was there a specific moment when you thought, not just thought more about it, but you actually invited Jesus, you prayed a prayer, you asked him to come in and change your life?
Yeah, it was quite profound. We had a church weekend away, and that was where we really started to experience as a church the Holy Spirit, people speaking in tongues, a few people being healed.
What did you think of the people speaking in tongues?
It was weird.
Yeah.
There was a guy throughout the entire weekend lying on a mattress with a bad back, and in the last service he got out of his bed and he started to clap and dance,
Wow.
and he felt a real healing in his spine.
Wow.
And it was a really, kind of moving time for our church from sort of the old to the new. And that was probably when I was a teenager, around about 12, 13. And I remember going home at the end of that weekend away and lying in bed thinking, yeah, I need to pray a prayer. So I prayed a prayer and felt very different afterwards. And I went and phoned my youth leader and we cried over the phone. And then I was baptised a few weeks later.
Brilliant.
So that was the defining moment, I think.
Yeah.
That weekend.
So you've got a definite pinpointable moment when you had a change.
Yeah,
something
that's right,
happened in your life. Okay. So that's brilliant. So over the years then, Tim, I know that's a lot of years.
It's a lot of years.
But
33, it's not that many.
So over the few years, what would you say about your Christian faith if I was sitting on a park bench with you just chatting?
Just talking for hours.
Oh,
well,
yes.
I could go, I won't talk for hours because I'm not a big talker. But I think we've been up and down over the years. Certainly I've been to college, and college took me away from church. It took me away from my family. It introduced me to a whole, load of new things that a young man wants to know about. And so I'd say I had a fall away for a couple of years during college. And then sort of again, around about sort of 1996, 97, I was back in church and I'd started worship leading and getting involved in the worship band because I'm a musician as well. Very, very interestingly, I was asked to, I was approached to be in a band in Southampton to play bass for them, and I was considering that and praying about it. It didn't feel right, and then my friend Jeff said to me, he says, "Oh, my sister's had a word from God. She feels she should move to Dudley with us." And I thought, no, that's
Does
not for
anybody
me.
have a word to move to Dudley?
All I said was, I'll pray about it, and
Wow.
if I feel different in the morning, then I'll come to. I woke up in the morning and I knew I had to come to Dudley.
Wow.
So I moved to Dudley. I lived in the flat across the road above the greengrocers, and the rest is history. Met Amy up here, got married, had kids.
That's why God wanted you to move to Dudley.
Yeah.
He got a girl.
He had a girl from.
He
But you know
got
what?
a
She's
girl
not local
lined
either,
up.
so neither of us have got the accent. So we are outside.
Result.
Yeah.
I was going to say. Okay, so that is brilliant. So over the years, you have seen God's direction. You have seen him pointing and guiding and bringing you to Dudley. Current day, today, now, where are you at? What's happening?
Well, just before COVID, we left the church that we'd been in since we moved to the Midlands, which was Dudley Community Church. We felt it was time for us to move on from that. We felt drawn to Bridge Church, which is just down the road. During lockdown, things changed there. Sort of the leadership changed, and also it was clear that our children weren't getting much from the short online meetings. So we started to engage with Springs, and felt very drawn to come here. So right now it's a case of, I think God is doing something new. I'm not up here. I still go to my old church and worship lead once a month or so. But it feels like a restful time, but also a busy time with my parents down in Sussex. So it feels like God's provision, really.
Yeah. So God is still doing stuff, even in perhaps a quieter, less dynamic, directional.
It feels like it doesn't. I wouldn't say a rest. It's far from a rest, but it feels that this is a time where I can engage in my family and still be involved in a church, doing the sound and things. But my job also involves working weekends, so I'm not here all the time. So
I loved the way how you glibly said, "I'm a musician as well." Yeah. How we just threw that into the story. Oh, I'm a musician as well. Okay, cool. Brilliant. Give us a tune. Okay, that's brilliant. So why do you think then your story is significant? All our stories are significant and amazing. They are.
Well, I think
what do you think about sharing yours?
Everybody has a story, and our stories and our lives and how we reflect Jesus in our lives, I think that draws people. I think most of my conversations I've had at work, or even at church, have been around, how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? How do you feel about that? I used to, working with challenging behaviour young people, I used to get a lot of comments about, how do you stay so calm? What's different about you? Why do they respond differently to you? What is it that you're doing that's, are you hypnotising them? It's just Jesus. It's just Jesus, reflecting Jesus in your life changes circumstances at
Brilliant.
work, at home. And I
Brilliant.
think that's what draws people.
Yeah.
Sharing our story as well just
Yeah.
helps us to know each other
Yeah.
and to understand each other, and everyone can perhaps gain
Yeah.
something from it.
A little bit of
Yeah.
something. Do you get opportunity to share your story?
I do at work. Yeah,
Yeah.
The young lad I work with, he's non-verbal, but he understands everything, and he believes
Wow.
in Jesus, and we have interesting conversations through signing and that, and yeah.
Brilliant.
And his parents as well, I've spoken to a couple of times.
Yeah.
His mother's, in the music industry. She was a dancer with the Spice Girls and lots of other
Okay.
famous people. So it's quite an
He's
interesting
just dropped
person
that one
to know.
out as well, hasn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, she's an interesting person to know. But yeah, just conversations at work with staff
Great,
and and things. It's interesting.
Brilliant. Fab. That's amazing. Thank you.
That's all right.
Can we give Tim a big round of applause? Thank you, Tim. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, our stories are so significant, aren't they? And God's in the business of doing something today. We've all got a story, we've all got a backstory, whether it be 30, 40, 50 years or 10 days. But God's doing something today within each and every one of us. And as we share stories, yeah, we've got a history, but he's doing something now. He's done something this week. He's done something today. God's moving. And that is absolutely brilliant. So thank you, Tim, for that.